what we have here is this heavy, leather-bound family Bible from the 19th century. And, at first glance, it looks like this perfect, pristine record of a family's life. It's a testament to their faith, their history, all laid out in this beautiful, careful script. I mean, just look at this family register page. The design, the little spaces for portraits, the crisp lines for births, marriages, and deaths. The whole point of this was to be a symbol of order, of faith, of having control over your family's story. It was meant to present this neat, clear narrative for generations to come.
But what if all that perfection is just an illusion? What if the real stories are hiding in the dates, in the faint pencil marks, and maybe most importantly, in the empty spaces where nothing is written at all?
To find out, let's start where the family did. We'll begin with the very first name recorded in this book, the husband, George Bartlett. Okay, so George was born in 1825. Now, stop and think about that for a second, because this is truly mind-bending. He was literally born into a world where his own photograph could not exist. The first permanent photograph wasn't successfully taken until the next year. He came into a world where your own image was as fleeting as a memory.
So let's jump forward a bit. Right here we have their marriage date, Christmas Eve, 1857. George married Elizabeth Farrant. And if you do a little quick math on their ages, something interesting pops up.
He was 32 and she was 23. Now, her age was pretty typical for the time. His, however, was not. For a man in the 1850s, getting married for the very first time at 32 was, well, it was unusually late.
So what's the deal? Was he just a lifelong bachelor who finally met the right person? Or is there something else going on here, hiding in the margins of this page? And there it is. You have to look really closely at this faint, almost erased entry at the bottom. It says, Sarah Ann Cloutman, first wife of George Bartlett. George wasn't an old bachelor. He was a widower. He had already lived and lost a whole other life before this official family register even began. This book, this symbol of a brand new beginning, was actually built on top of a tragedy. Okay, so that's the husband's hidden story. Now let's turn to his new wife, Elizabeth. Her story is also written against a backdrop of history, but a history that's been deliberately silenced, the history of the very land she was born on.
Elizabeth was born in 1834 in Tasmania, and in the timeline of that island's history, that date is absolutely chilling.
You see, her birth came just after the end of the Black War, a brutal campaign by British colonists to remove the indigenous Palawa people. By 1834, the genocide was nearly complete. The few survivors were exiled from their own homeland. Elizabeth was literally born into a profound, enforced silence, into a landscape that was being systematically emptied of its people and its 40,000-year history. And this is where you see this incredible paradox. This very Bible, with its own rigid, authoritative timeline that says creation started in 4004 BC, was a tool of the exact culture that was overwriting the much, much deeper history of the land. It imposes its own story, its own dates, its own truth on a place that already had one. So we've got a hidden personal tragedy and a really dark historical context. But, this family had money, they had strong faith. Surely that offered them some kind of protection from the harsh realities of the 19th century, right? And make no mistake, this family was affluent. A Bible like this, packed with commentaries and steel engravings, was not cheap. This was a major status symbol, kind of like the home theater system of its day. It was an object that just screamed order, knowledge, and stability. But that stability was a complete illusion. Let's look at the page for the children. We see Frederick James Bartlett, born in 1863. And right next to his name, the heartbreaking entry. Died Sept. 8, 1868. He died at a time when germ theory was just barely a concept. Diseases we barely think about today, like scarlet fever or diphtheria, were a death sentence. He was just 5 years old. All their wealth, all their faith, all the order bound up in this beautiful book couldn't do a thing to save him. So let's jump forward 50 years, 2 full generations. Did things get any better? Well, here we find the name of a great-grandchild, Elvina May Bartlett. And next to her name, another entry. Died March 11th, 1917. And right beside that, another loss is recorded. A son born stillborn.
Elvina was also 5 years old. It's the same unimaginable grief 2 generations apart. This beautifully ordered book is really just a catalog of generational trauma that money and status were absolutely powerless to stop.
So when you look past the beautiful handwriting and the fancy borders, you start to realize this book isn't a record of control at all. It's a record of the complete opposite. This is the deep paradox at the heart of it all. The family used this object to try and impose order on their lives, meticulously recording all the dates. But the dates they were recording were of events they had absolutely no power to stop. The beautiful script was just documenting their own helplessness.
And if you need one image that sums this all up, it's this page right here, the family portrait gallery. It's almost completely empty. These frames were meant to hold the faces of the future, but they just remain blank. They're ghosts of children who never grew old enough for a formal portrait, a testament to the faces they couldn't save and the photos that were never taken.
When we put all the evidence together, the truth becomes pretty clear. This Bible isn't a perfect family record. It's not a book of faith's certainties or life's neat answers. It's a book of ghosts. The ghost of a first wife, the ghosts of an erased people, and the ghosts of children who died far, far too soon.
And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If you look closely at the documents and the dates that tell your own family's history, what silences, what tragedies, what ghosts might you find hiding just beneath the surface?